Alright, I'm gonna go over what I have. So let's click play here. Actually, let me undo something here. Okay. Alright, I'll click play. So you're gonna see I have my performance here. It's not bad. Of course there's only one running. Actually there's none running at the moment, but it will spike a little bit when you're calling UI and blueprint stuff. And then over here I will have events printed out. So I'm going to click enter to start a conversation. So Baba, here's Baba's conversation. We'll just go through this. So here I'm going to click next, and then when the text finishes, the responses will pop up. And remember, this is the one with a timer, so a timer will start. So I'm just going to let it get through it. So you're going to see your character does a response. You may not, then it goes Baba. You may not want that. So I had an option here. If you gotta put some type of text here, or it's just gonna be ignored. So you just put a period here by itself. I'm gonna go through all this again. It will now skip your character and go to whatever text is next. So in this case, it would be Baba. So you're gonna see these responses do not fit very well. The sentences are very long. So you can tell me what you think of that. We can have the background fit to the size of these sentences, but usually games, they're not that long, so I didn't really want to work on that if I didn't know what you wanted to do. So I'll continue. So Baba finishes the conversation. So technically we have done our first conversation with her. I'm going to click enter again. And next she's going to be going to the next section of her screenplay. So, so it tells you about Grumpy, as I'll probably capitalize that. So, yep. Sorry, it's just a joke. I want to show a new feature I did add. Not a new thing. I had to go through all this again. So, sorry about that. Anyway, so we're going to come here. So, I'm going to say thanks. And Baba's now going to say, now get back to work. And this wasn't working before, so it's kind of a new feature, but mostly a fix. So I'm going to click this response, and it will finish the conversation. So rather than Baba having to say something, so you don't technically need to have any texts now after a response. So actually this would be the proper section. So if I do this, there's no valid text. I'll just end it. I'll just keep going down the line. So that's a nice feature there. Let's see. So I could play again, honestly, and then show you that it goes all the way down here. It's not really much point. So I'll go through all the UI now. So I have this simple material here for the rounded corners for my UI. I found that just on YouTube. And then I have a triangle texture here for my little pointers. So down here, the moving triangle. And then I have here is a game mode. So under tick, I'm checking if no screenplays are running. And then I'm doing an enter button. I use this subsystem here to run a screenplay asset. And the section is specified of auto. So it's going to automatically get the section it wants based on the parameters here. Oops. So you specify the asset you want here, and then you specify UI you want to use, the widget. So I do plan on making a little more different versions of these. So this one you can use, one where you can specify the asset, but you can also specify directly what section you want to use. So this could be good for certain in-game things. And then finally, this is like a search here. So where it will search all the assets and automatically find the one you want. So yes, so I'll do those two next, but I just want to make sure before I added more layers on top of the screenplay, I want to make sure the UI worked first. But it's not really needed for the demo, I don't think. So I think it's fine as is. But anyway, so I'll go to UI now. So remember, I'm specifying the UI I want here. So here, I have 3 types of UI, blueprint UIs you can use. So you have your screenplay, you gotta use one of these. So this comes with a lot of helpful things. And I have these 2 response ones. It's optional, but for the example, I use them. So you got your response and your response item. So we're going to start with the response widget. It's pretty simple. It's just a vertical box because I want to lay out the responses vertical. And then under graph, there's a built-in variable called panel. You need to know what you want to use to put the items in. And I'm just telling it to use this vertical box. So it says it's a panel widget, a vertical box widget here. So the ways why these match up is because a vertical box is a type of panel. So I hope that makes sense. So that's how I set up the response. Pretty simple. Then I have my actual item, response item. I just lay out things here. Then I have my animations here, so I have it fade in. And then I have the selector, move it back and forth. So there's the graph. So here's a custom event called on response item constructed. So when the response item is created in C++, it was and it's added to the response widget here. It will call this event, and you get some helpful things here. So you got your response, your text. I play the animation to fade into it, and I call this unhovered, and to set the selection not selected, so it disables the triangle right here. And then based on visibility, I'm setting, do I want this response to be visible or not? So you have your event unenabled, so when the response is set to be visible, I play this, that's when this is called. I am playing the animation to fade in. So right here, fade in the animation, and then on disabled. So when you're no longer using it, I play the same animation but reversed. So I have a hovered start and hovered constructed. So this one's called if it's the first item, the first response, basically when the responses are constructed. So I'm just setting the triangle. Where the hell did it go? Oh, sorry, you gotta unclick that triangle here. So by default, you should be selecting the first one, and then when you're unhovered, so when you're no longer hovered, I set it to hidden. So that's the response widget. Here's the main widget here. So I lay it out, but you'll notice here I have the response widget. So this is where I specify which widget I want. I lay it out over here. And I got some animations here. This one's for the arrow to move up and down. This one is to fade in and out. This one fades out the whole thing. In and out the whole thing. So this one's pretty big, but it's not that bad once you understand what's going on. So at the start, I want these two texts to be set to nothing. Then I want the selection, this little thing down here, to be invisible. Then I'm just going to set it once for the animation to move up and down through the whole lifetime of this widget. The little arrow move up and down. And then here I got a typewriter right here. So I create a typewriter. I construct it and then I set it. And then I'm binding it has a built-in variable called Screenplay user widget. And I'm binding it to this. So all of its events get passed into this widget. So that'll make more sense in a little bit. And I do the same thing with the response widget. So here, right here. So its events are passed into this widget. So I know when I select something. And here is the response widget right here. All right. So we'll just go through some of these. So tick, I'm ticking my typewriter so the text continues to print out. Then on typewriter input, type response input. This is where I have a built-in function to get the percentage of your time remaining if it's an auto response. So this is where I set this here. So, okay. So I have my events here. I just put out an event, and then by default, I'm just telling, hey, we finished our event. So please continue down the line of the narrator screenplay. Go to the next line and whatnot. Then on start, I fade this in. So I fade this in, and on stop, I fade out. So I'll read these two right here. And then I give it enough time to pass to finish fading out, and then I destroy the widget here. So this on stop is called anytime the narrator task is finished. So now here's the special on response selected. So I select a response, I get an index. So I set to screenplay text as response, screenplay task response, and then I disable the responses. Then here's a typewriter text started. So when the text starts, I do all this. I have text continued, text continued final, text finished, text finished final, and at the end of here, no, text continued final. When you're done all your texts. You need to let the screenplay know you're not waiting for text and responses no more. So there's that. Here's a typewriter step event. So the typewriter doesn't actually render anything. It gives it, you give it input, and then it output things for you. So right now I got this text right here. So I'm just sending its text based on our current step text. I hope that makes sense. And then here, this bottom one is the time the screenplay widget sends an event to this widget. The screenplay task, sends wants to set its widget's text and responses. This event gets called. So I'm just setting the text for the typewriter, and then I'm just remembering these inputs here, so I can use them down the line. This is where I set my responses. So this is my response widget here. So it's a reference to this right here. Then this is where I reference what item I want to use for the responses. So this is our response item widget. It's a reference by class. So just going to create copies. And then I put in all this data here, over here. Now there's a little caveat here. For some reason, for these types of blueprint events, I could not get a bool to work, so I just save it as a byte, and then you just convert the byte into a bool. So then I pass it in, and then here's a set visible here. So that would be, oops, wrong one. Set visible here. So it'll be this one here, if it's visible at start or not. So you might be asking, well, it never does that. Technically, no. I did add an option here, so I would say for some reason I don't have any text coming in, but I do have two responses here. I'm gonna see it's starts visible here, so that's what that's used for. I'm not sure what use cases for something like this would be, but maybe like there's a simple menu, who knows. You can make a little menu if you want. Anyway, let me delete that. Okay. But by default, you will notice they are invisible. And once I get to the last text of the typewriter, it will display them. So that's where I set my responses. And then here I have a built-in variable, function, where if there is no text or responses, we're just going to continue the screenplay, because otherwise you get stuck displaying nothing, no text or responses. So you gotta let it know that you want to continue. So yeah, that's what I got here. This is a pretty long video, so I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions, you can let me know.